There's a quiet kind of magic that happens when a broken heart meets a wandering soul. It doesn't always come with fireworks or grand declarations. Sometimes it arrives in the form of a big, red-coated German shepherd with floppy ears, soulful brown eyes, and a past no one quite understood. His name was Rusty, and to Laura and her husband, he wasn't just a rescue. He was a second chance for all of them. Not long before Rusty entered their lives, their home had gone silent. They had lost their beloved German shepherd, their shadow, their guard, their daily joy. His absence left a hollow space in the house, in their routines, in the way they greeted each other after work. The couch felt too big, the backyard too empty. Even the air seemed heavier, as if grief had settled into the walls. They tried to keep going, of course. Life doesn't pause for heartbreak, but something vital was missing. The steady rhythm of paws on hardwood, the comfort of a warm body leaning against your leg, the quiet certainty that you were never truly alone. Then, one ordinary afternoon, a friend who volunteered at Miami-Dade Animal Services sent Laura a photo. "Take a look at this one," the message read. "He's waiting." Laura opened the image, and her breath caught. There he was, a large German shepherd, bigger than most, with a deep red coat that shimmered even in the dim shelter lighting. His ears stuck out sideways like satellite dishes, just like their last dog's. And his eyes, those deep, liquid brown eyes, held a mixture of fear and hope that pierced straight through her. But there was something else. His cage had red writing on it. Bold, official, unmistakable, not good with other dogs. To most people, that would have been a warning, a reason to walk away. But to Laura and her husband, it was a cry for help. "What's going to happen to this big baby if nobody takes him home?" her husband asked that night, staring at the photo on his phone. They knew, then and there, that Rusty was meant to be theirs. The first time they met him in person, he was trembling, not barking, not growling, just shaking, as if the world had taught him to expect only danger. He flinched at sudden movements. He backed away from loud voices. And cars? He wouldn't go near them. That told Laura everything. Rusty had been on the streets. He'd known hunger, loneliness, maybe even cruelty. Bringing him home wasn't easy. The first few days were a dance of patience and reassurance. He'd hide under the bed at the sound of a passing truck. He'd pace the hallway at night, unsure if he was allowed to sleep, unsure if this was real. Laura and her husband never pushed. They spoke softly. They sat on the floor, letting him come to them. They offered treats, not as bribes, but as quiet invitations. "You're safe here." Slowly, Rusty began to trust. It started with small things, a tentative lick of her husband's hand, a slow approach to the couch. One evening, he rested his massive head on her husband's knee and didn't pull away. That moment, simple as it was, felt like a miracle. Before long, they were inseparable. Every night, without fail, Rusty would curl up on the couch with her husband, his big head resting in his lap like it was the most natural place in the world. Laura would laugh, teasing, "Really? You two are ridiculous." But she didn't mind. She could see the light returning to her husband's eyes, the way his shoulders relaxed, how he'd talked to Rusty in that soft, private voice he'd once used with their first dog. Rusty even got his own bedtime, 10 p.m. sharp. At the chime of the clock, he'd trot off to the bedroom beside her husband, tail wagging, as if he'd been doing it all his life. Laura would stay up reading, smiling to herself, listening to the quiet sounds of Rusty settling in. Sighs, gentle snores, the soft thump of a tail against the mattress. Of course, their home wasn't just theirs anymore. There was Slade, their older dog, who watched Rusty's exuberance with the weary patience of a grandparent. "You go play, kid," his tired eyes seemed to say. "I've seen it all." And then there were the cats, two of them, who, against all logic, adored Rusty. Despite his size, they'd curl up around him at night, their tiny bodies pressed against his red fur, leaving Laura barely any room on the bed. Every day, she'd laugh. Not all day, every day, but every single day. Rusty wasn't perfect. He never learned to play fetch properly. He'd chase the ball, yes, but the moment he caught it, he'd clamp down and refuse to let go, as if surrendering it meant losing something precious. But that was Rusty. Strong-willed, loyal, full of heart. He guarded the house fiercely, not out of aggression, but out of devotion. Because for the first time, he knew he had a home, a place that was his, people who were his, and he wasn't about to let anything threaten that. Laura often imagined what she'd say to him if he could understand words. "You're safe now, boy," she'd whisper, scratching behind his ears. "You're home. You're loved." And Rusty? He spoke in his own language, with the way he'd jump up on the couch every evening and rest his head on her husband's chest, with the way he'd nudge Laura's hand when she was lost in thought, as if to say, "I'm here," with the way he'd stand by the door when her husband left for work, tail low, waiting for his return like it was the most important thing in the world. He even learned to give kisses, or at least that's what they called it when he'd gently press his nose to their cheeks and huff softly, his warm breath tickling their skin. "Give me a kiss," Laura would say, and Rusty would oblige with the solemn dignity of a prince. He was on a strict diet, something he made very clear he didn't enjoy. His pout, complete with raised eyebrows that looked like little dots, could melt even the most determined vet. But Laura stood firm. "No, Rusty, not even one bite of my ice cream." He'd stare anyway, his eyes wide and pleading, until she finally gave in and offered a tiny lick from the spoon. And he'd sigh, as if to say, "Finally, someone who understands." Rusty's arrival didn't just fill the silence in their home. It healed it. Where there had been grief, there was now laughter. Real, deep laughter that echoed through the halls. Where there had been stillness, there was now the joyful chaos of a big dog trying to fit onto a too-small dog bed, of paws skidding on tile, of tail thumps against cabinet doors. He reminded them that love doesn't fade. It transforms. It finds new vessels, new expressions, new reasons to keep going. And in return, they gave him what he'd never had: consistency, safety, belonging. No more alleys, no more chains, no more wondering if tomorrow would bring food or fear. Just love. Steady, unwavering, unconditional love. Rusty's story is a gentle reminder that rescue animals don't just need saving. They save us right back. In their quiet loyalty, in their forgiving eyes, in the way they choose to trust again, even after the world has broken them. They show us the purest form of grace. Because Rusty didn't just find a family, he became one. And every time Laura looked at him, floppy ears twitching, red coat glowing in the afternoon sun, soulful eyes watching over his home, she knew this big, imperfect, loving boy hadn't just filled their empty spaces. He'd made them whole again. So, if you've ever thought about adoption, remember Rusty. Take your time, learn their needs, understand their fears, and then open your heart fully, because the love you'll find won't just change their life. It will change yours too. Rusty may not have been good with other dogs, but he was perfect for them. And that was all that ever mattered.